Hi girls, hope you're doing well and are ready to start working on learning guide number 2. So just to remind you where to look, you can find it in the document that I uploaded last week. It was that big document with the 5 learning guides put together, and learning guide number 2 starts on page 6. So that's what we're going to be working on this week. So you should have that open. If you have a Chumash, that one. And if not, the handout that I also posted with the Rashis that you can read along. So just to remind you, we're talking about Balak, who was appointed king of Moab and sent messengers to Bilam, the prophet who lived in Midian, to come curse Bnei Israel because Moab saw how Bnei Israel defeated the other nations, and he was very, very afraid, and he wanted to defeat them the way that he knows Bnei Israel always win. He found their strong spot, which last week we talked about was their words, right? We saw the leader of Bnei Israel, the elders of Midian told him, was very strong in his words, meaning Moshe was davening, and whatever Bnei Israel did, they didn't just win with their swords and guns or whatever they war tools they were using, but their main power was davening to Hashem. So he went to seek somebody who also was powerful with his words, who can defeat Bnei Israel the same way. And Bilam, he was a prophet who was known for whatever he would say would come true. So Balak thought, well, if we can curse Bnei Israel, then they'll be cursed, they'll be doomed, and we will be safe. So that's the general overview, just to remind you of what we're talking about. And this week, learning guide number 2 starts with Pasuk Hey. So let's go back to Pasuk Hey for a second. Just getting my stuff. Okay. So I'm just going to read the Pasuk so we know what we're talking about. Then we'll dig into the Rashis. Vaishlach malachim el Bil'am ben Beor, and he sent messengers to Bil'am ben Beor, Petora, to a place called Petor, Asher al Hanahar, that is by the river, Eretz bnei Amo, of the land of his people, Likrolo, to call to him, Le'emor, saying, Hine am yatsa miMitzrayim, there is a nation that came out of Mitzrayim. Hine chisa et ein haaretz, they have covered the eye of the land. Vehu yoshev mimuli, and they're stationed, they're dwelling in front of me. Okay, so the first Rashi we're going to talk about is actually a question that you guys raised in our Zoom meeting last week, which is how come Bil'am is even a prophet? He wasn't Jewish, he wasn't anybody that we know of that was great. What is this with Bil'am being a prophet? And that's exactly what Rashi wants to discuss in Pasuk Hey. So he looks at the words Eretz bnei Amo, which is also the Dibur HaMatchil that we're going to look at. So let's read the Rashi together. I'm going to read it and translate, and then we can discuss what it means. Okay, Eretz bnei Amo, the land of his people. So Rashi starts out by saying Shel Balak. So his question is, what people? What is this talking about? And he right away says, the people of Balak, meaning Balak came from there. Okay, so he sent messengers to the city where he himself was from. I'm going to continue reading. Misham Haya, he came from there. וזה היה מתנבא. This one was prophesizing. When Rashi says this one, he's talking about Bil'am. So just to put the names in the context to make it easier, Bil'am was prophesizing, ve'omer lo, and telling him, meaning telling Balak, atid ata limloch, you are destined to rule. Did that actually happen? We know that it did, right? We learned last time that Balak wasn't the actual heir to the throne. He just happened to be at the right place at the right time. The king of Moab had died. Balak was a known noble person. He had the right connections. So they appointed him a temporary king over Moab. So did the Bilam's prophecy that Balak is going to rule one day absolutely came true. Moving on in the Rashi. Ve'im tamar, and if you ask, mipnei ma hishra hakadosh baruch hu shchinato al goy rasha. Why did Hashem bestow his shchina on a wicked goy, on a wicked non-Jew? So that's exactly the questions you guys asked me last week. Why did Hashem give this guy who wasn't a good person, he wasn't even Jewish, the ability to become a Navi, a prophet? So let's see what Rashi says. Kedei shelo yehe, in order, so there should not be, pitchon pe la'umot. Pitchon pe is an expression to say, that means an excuse. Patach comes from the, pitchon comes from the shoresh patach, to open. Pe is a mouth, like to open the mouth, to make an excuse. La'umot, for the nations. Lomar, to say. So again, the answer starts out saying, Hashem gave Bil'am the ability to become a prophet. So nations, other nations, non-Jewish nations, should not have an excuse to say, Ilu hayu lanu nevi'im, if we had prophets, right, just like the Jewish people have prophets, chazarnu lemutav, we would have done good things, we would have done teshuvah, we would have repented. Lemutav comes from the word tov, good, we would have done good. He'emid lahem nevi'im, so Hashem assigned them prophets, so they wouldn't have an excuse to say, hey, we could have been good too, but you didn't give us any prophets to lead us the way. So what did Hashem do? He gave them prophets. Vehem parzu geder ha'olam. But these prophets, what did they do? They breached a morally accepted barrier. What does that mean? If you look at your worksheet, you will see, this is on page 7, Gader Olam Gader is a fence, right? So if you kind of picture a fence around an area, a fence is meant to protect something, right? To keep it safe. And there's, what Rashi's saying, there's kind of like an invisible safe against, in the world, an invisible gate against the world that's meant to protect people from doing things that are not moral, that are not appropriate. So, if you picture a person always has, this in their head, kind of like good, evil thoughts, good thoughts, evil thoughts, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And normally you would have kind of like a fence that prevents you from doing things that are really, really wrong. So the nations of the world, even though they have, we all have this natural fence against doing evil things, Hashem gave them a prophet who could have given them good thoughts, good advice, be a good leader. They still kind of broke down the barrier of good, and they started doing things that are really immoral or really bad. And in this context, Rashi's even saying that it was so the barriers they went through were so bad, the lines they crossed were so bad that they were starting to act very inappropriately, even in terms of doing very inappropriate things with women, and just became very, very bad people. So I'm continuing in the Rashi. שבתחילה היו גדורים באריות. Because at first they refrained from immorality. Gdurim comes from the word gader. That's kind of like the fence that we talked about. They were refrained, they were restrained, they put themselves away from immoral acts. V'zeh, and he, meaning Bil'am, natan lahem etzah, gave them really bad advice. Lehafkir atzman leznut, to offer themselves freely for prostitution and corruption and doing really bad things. So it was a long, tough Rashi. Let's go through it together. Let's go through it from the beginning. Rashi wants to know, why do we have this prophet who's not even Jewish? Rashi tells us, well, Hashem gave them this prophet so that the other nations wouldn't have any excuse to say, hey, if we had prophets like Bnei Israel, we would have done good things. We wouldn't have done bad. We would have done teshuvah. We would have, only been on a good, positive way of acting. But so Hashem gave them Bil'am, he gave them a prophet that wasn't a Jew, so that they have a leader. They don't have any excuse to say we had no guidance to do good. Bil'am, however, was a bad person, and instead of guiding them to the right things, he actually guided them toward a lot of immorality, a lot of corruption, and even things like prostitution, really, really bad things that you shouldn't do. In the beginning, they had, the nations of the world kind of had this fence that we talked about of, keeping yourself from doing bad. Then Bil'am comes along, and instead of motivating them to stay away from the bad, he kind of pushed them toward the bad. Okay, so that was a heavy Rashi to take in, and if you have questions on that one, we can discuss it more at our Zoom meeting. But for now, let's just answer some of the questions on the worksheet. So we are in the middle of page 7. איך הכיר Balak et Bil'am? How did Balak know Bil'am? Okay, so that's according to the pasuk and the Rashi. I'll give you a hint. Where were they both from? The second question, Ma niva Bil'am al Balak? So that's what we kind of talked about also in the beginning. In the beginning of this Rashi, what did Bil'am prophesize about Balak that actually came true? Next question, למה השם השרה שכינתו על גויים להיות נביאים? Why did Hashem give some of his shechina to the non-Jews to be a prophet? And again, that's also from the Rashi that we just talked about. And next question, איך הנביאים זנו מהדרך הנכונה? How did this prophet stray from the right way of acting? All right, so we talked about how he could could have been a good leader, but now moved away from that. That's also from the Rashi. And the last question we're going to do together, because we actually have to flip to a different perek to answer. So let's see. איך בלעם השתמש בכוחות של הנבואה שלו להטעות את בני ישראל? How did Bil'am use his powers of being a prophet to cause Bnei Israel to make big mistakes, to do bad things? And the learning guide leads us to Perek Chafhei, Pasuk Aleph, and look in the Rashi. So if you have a Chumash, please turn to Perek Chafhei, Pasuk Aleph. If you do not have a Chumash, just try and listen and follow along as I read. Vayeshev Israel b'Shittim, and Bnei Israel settled in a place called Shittim. Vayachel ha'am liznot el bnot Moav, and the nation started to act immorally with the daughters of Moav. So before we even look at any Rashi, something should jump out at you. Moav, right? That's the nation we're talking about. That's where Bil'am was from. Sorry, not Bil'am. That's where Balak became the king of. So that already should jump out at you. And the next thing that should have jumped out at you, here we're talking about bad acts that the people were doing, immoral acts. And if we look at the Rashi of Pasuk Aleph, so we're going to look at Dibur Matchil, Liznot el bnot Moav, to act immorally with the daughters of Moav. So I'm just reading from the Rashi. Al yedei etzat Bil'am, according to the advice of Bil'am. So here in this perek, Rashi says that Bil'am specifically gave bad advice to the people, telling them to do bad, immoral things with the daughters of Moav. So we can now turn back to our own perek, Chafbet, and back to our learning guide. And let's answer the question. How did Bil'am use his powers to cause Bnei Israel to make a mistake? And according to the Rashi that we read in that perek, he gave them bad advice to do immoral things with the women, the daughters of the nation Moav. Okay, so again, we can talk more about that in our Zoom meeting. I know it's a lot, big, heavy Rashis here, but that's what keeps things interesting, right? Okay, next Rashi, which is actually the last one we're going to do in this learning guide, is on the same pasuk. Rashi here wants to talk about the word Hine Chisa et ein haaretz. Remember, the pasuk says that there's a nation that came out of Mitzrayim, and they're covering the eye of the land. So here, pretty simple question. What does it mean they're covering the eye of the land? So let's read the Rashi. So the Dibur Matchil, Vehine Kisa et ein haaretz. Sichon ve'og, these are the names of two kings, Sichon and Og, Shehayu Shomrim Otanu, they used to be our guardians, they used to guard us or protect us. Amdu alehem, they attacked them, veharagum, and killed them. So what is Rashi saying here? He's saying that Balak saw the Bnei Israel defeated these two great kings, Sichon and Og. Sichon and Og used to kind of protect the nation of Moab. They used to be their guardians. They used to be the ones that they feel safe next to because they were such a strong nation. But they saw that when they attacked Bnei Israel were able to kill them. Okay, so that's what he means by that phrase. So let's look at the questions. Mi kisa et ein haaretz. Who covered the eye of the land? Mi hem ein haaretz. Who is ein haaretz? So think of the Rashi that we just read. Who is he? Who is the pasuk referring to when it's saying they covered the eye of the land? תבררו את הפתגם, הנה כיסה את עין הארץ. Explain the phrase, what does it mean that they covered the eye of the land? And that's it for learning guide number 2. So just a couple of Rashis, one that's pretty long, a lot to discuss, one that's a little lighter and easier, so we can go over it more when we have our Zoom meeting. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out to me and I'll be so happy to hear from you. And I hope you have a great week. I still really miss seeing you in class, and I'm still every day davening, hoping that we get to go back to school really, really soon. Bye, girls. See you on Wednesday.